Before Britain, before Spain, before the borders of our modern nations, there was Rome. A city born in blood and myth, where twin brothers once fought for its crown. From a clutch of huts on the Tiber, it grew into a power that spanned the world. Rome carved roads across continents, raised monuments that defied the heavens, and called itself eternal. Its emperors declared themselves the stewards of destiny, its armies the arbiters of civilization. They believed their laws would outlast the mountains. Their gods command every shore. Their banners eclipse all others. They thought the world would bow. But what Rome did not know, what it could never understand, was that some lands bear older masters, that there are forces which neither the sword nor decree can tame. The Eldritch episodes present The Very Old Folk by H.P. Lovecraft.
It was the year 727, since the founding of the city, the height of Augustus's rule. Julius Caesar's crossing of the Rubicon and the bloody civil wars that followed had shattered the old republic, only for Octavian to triumph and take the name Augustus, ushering in a new era of Pax Romana. Our dominion now stretched from Euphrates, where client kings held Parthia at bay, to the mist-shrouded forests of Germania, where the Rhine limes bristled with eagle standards. And to the west, wars raged against the fierce tribes of Hispania. Rome was vast. Rome was mighty. Rome was everything. We carried the sacred duty and the divine right to bring order to barbarian soil. At least, that's what I believed. My name is Lucius Caelius Rufus. I serve as a quaestor under Augustus, born in the old heart of Italy to a house of patrician lineage. At my father's knee, I mastered oratory and the art of statecraft. By torchlight in hidden archives, I delved into darker lore. Scrolls from Syria, Etruria, and Egypt passed through my hands. I stood with the blood-stained priests of Diana at Lake Nemi and traced the bronze tablets forbidding the Bacchanalia, feeling the weight of ancient fears. My education was not merely in governance, but in the old powers that slept beneath the world. I believed in Roman superiority, in the order and law our legions ensured. But that belief began to crack when I was posted to Pompelo, a young colonia clinging to its plateau on the Arga River. There, I heard reports of the struggle that burned in the west. I heard about the thunder of siege engines and the smoke of burning hill forts. I watched legions and their auxiliaries struggle to bend the Cantabri, Asturias, and Galicia. In the tangled forests and high mountain passes, ambushes sprang like vipers. Poisoned springs and falling rocks turned our discipline to chaos. It was there I learned that some lands resist order. Not even the peace of Augustus can still the whisper of those ancient spirits. I often walked alone in the afternoons to clear my thoughts. From the edge of the plateau, I would gaze towards the hills and the endless forests that crept over them. At dusk, the sky turned red like spilt wine, and the treetops swayed like whispers from an older world. It began as a murmur inside me, a subtle unrest, but it grew. Day by day, my certainty faltered. When I first came to these lands, I feared Jupiter and Mars. I feared that without proper rites and offerings, the gods would turn their gaze from me. But that fear was misplaced. Because here in Hispania, I began to feel the presence of something else. Something watching from the shadows beneath the trees. In Rome, the gods were known to me. I honored them with confidence, spoke their names, and trusted they heard mine in return. Mars marched with our legions. Jupiter favored our victories. It was a pact, clear and sacred. But here, none of that held sway. We ruled the tribes, yes, but not the land. The stones, the wind, the silence between trees belonged to something else. In Hispania, I encountered presences older than any altar, older even than the founding of the city, and I know they will outlast it. I knew my gods, I knew their will. But as dusk swallowed the hills and the tree line disappeared into shadow, I found myself wondering, what were the names of the gods on the other side of the tree line? And why were they looking at me? That time of year always brought tension. The Vascones, our subjects in these northern hills, grew more withdrawn as autumn deepened. Their customs turned inwards, their voices hushed. It was the season of their old rites, tied to a people even more remote than themselves, a secretive mountain tribe known only by the name of Zaharak. They rarely descended into the valley, save for trade. When they did, it was through silent envoys, yellow-eyed, sharp-featured figures who spoke no Latin and used gestures to bargain. But this year, a market brawl broke out. 3 of them were killed. What exactly happened remains unclear, but the tension left behind was undeniable. Since then, there have been no disappearances, no new sightings of the hillfolk, just silence. That, more than anything, unsettled the town. Word reached Caliguras, where the legate, Gnaeus Balbucius, dismissed the affair as a local matter. But in Pompelo, the aedile Tiberius Aeneas Stilpo, a man of mixed blood and local sympathies, felt otherwise. He requested aid. When that failed, I wrote directly to the propraetor, Publius Scribonius Lipo, urging intervention. My studies led me to believe this was no simple hill superstition, and Scribonius listened. Now the town buzzes with unease. Scribonius has arrived in person. Balbucius has followed. The 5th cohort is here too, commanded by Tribune Sextus Aselius. And I have been summoned to advise. The atrium of aedile Tiberius Aeneas Stilpo was quieter than it should have been. Not empty, no, but subdued, like a temple just after the gods have departed. The air lay heavy with the dust tracked in by travelers' sandals and the smoke of oil lamps, stirred only by hushed voices and sidelong glances. Even the mosaic floor beneath my feet seemed to pause in expectation. The shallow impluvium at its center catching the lamplight like a dark, watchful eye.
Ah, dear brothers, thank you for convening on such short notice. I will not speak of superstition. I know where we are and who we represent, but I must speak plainly of what's occurred. 3 months ago, 5 traders from the hills descended into a nearby village. They came in peace, as they always do, at the turn of the season. But something changed. There was a dispute at the market, a fight. 3 of them were killed. Since then, we've had no further contact. No messengers, no sightings, no disappearances either. Nothing. And that is what troubles us. For those of us who've lived here long enough, we know the pattern. They come, they leave, someone goes missing. It's always been that way. Not this year.
You say that as if the absence of victims is cause for concern.
No, it is, Legate. When an enemy follows a pattern and then ceases to, it rarely means peace.
Or it means their superstitious heads are down in shame after losing 3 of their own. That's one reading.
Perhaps. But even if that were true, the silence remains. The Vascones are afraid. They say the rites will happen, regardless. That something is coming. Now, I'm not here to urge panic, only to state that the fear is thick in the streets. People do not light torches at night. They do not send their children to markets. The temples stand empty. And if the Zaharak do plan something in return for what happened, then this silence may be their warning. No, that is the situation as I understand it. The rest is yours to deliberate.
With all due respect, Edile, this smells more of superstition than threat. We've all heard the stories. Bonfires on the ridges, chants in the dark, old ghosts walking down from the hills, and every year the same. The peasants bolt their doors, whisper to their gods, and we get a handful of stories about a missing shepherd or a girl who ran off with some tribesmen. That is not war. That is not Rome's concern.
And if it does become Rome's concern,
Then we deal with it, as we always do, with discipline. But this is shadows on walls. The Emperor cannot afford to chase every flicker that frightens the countryside.
spoken like a man who's never lived under those shadows. These people don't just fear stories. The rites are real to them. And fear, real fear, is contagious.
Let them tremble. Better the natives fear their hills than grow too bold under our rule. Fear keeps them in line.
Caution and fear are not always the same, Tribune. Continue.
Of course, proprietor. My point is simple. These mountain tribes live by fatal superstitions. They see the world in omens and curses. We, on the other hand, are Rome. We bring roads, law, and order.
But we do answer for the safety of our citizens.
And which citizens, Edile? The traitors who killed 3 of their own? The townspeople who hide from their own shadows? Let's not pretend these people carry the banners of Rome. They are not our citizens, they are subjects, provincials, hill-born and half-Roman at best. Rome is not here to hold hands when the leaves fall.
And yet, Rome is here. The proprietor sits in this room. The cohort waits outside. We are gathered because something is happening. And if you believe it's only shadows, then you haven't been listening.
Enough.
Propraetor, if I may.
Go ahead, Legate.
We are not in Rome, nor are we in Gallia or Numidia. This is an old place, full of quiet tribes and deep grudges. I understand the tribune's position. I share his confidence in our arms. But this is not a question of strength. It's a question of timing. If the Vascones join the Cantabri and rise in rebellion, they'll pick us apart from the underbrush, cut our supply routes, and leave us stranded. Agrippa showed us how it's done in Gaul. One treaty with the Petroquary has gained him more ground than a year of forced marches. Win the chiefs, and the rest fall in line. If we send men up into the hills, armed, torches lit, blades drawn, we will not stamp out fear. We will feed it. The Vascones may grumble, yes, but they are quiet. They pay their taxes. They know their place. And if we trample through their sacred woods during a ritual season, they may not remain so docile.
You assume they are docile now.
I assume they are not yet burning our storehouses or raiding our roads. That is a kind of docility I'm willing to tolerate. This town is small. Its people look to Rome for protection, yes. But if we let one act of blood, a market brawl turn into a military incursion, we risk teaching the tribes that we answer fear with iron, and iron rusts quickly in the mountains.
There is merit in what you say. However, you've been quiet, quaestor, and yet it was by your hand that this council was called. Surely you have something to say.
Thank you, Propraetor. I did not speak earlier because I hoped, foolishly perhaps, that the danger would speak for itself. That the weight in this room, the unease in the forum, the silence in the streets would be evidence enough. But I see now I must make the case plainly. Let me be clear. I do not believe in tales told over wine. I do not frighten at drums in the woods. But I do believe in precedent. I believe in patterns. And I believe in the consequences of ignoring them. The people of those mountains have never been brought to heel. Not by Rome, not by anyone. They do not speak the tongue of the Vascones. They do not send envoys to our governors. They send symbols, traders, bone charms, fires on ridgelines. I have read things. Scrolls from Etruria to Alexandria, of those who dare to study what most of us only name in passing. There are rights that bind people not through law, but through blood and hunger. When practiced in full, they do not simply claim lives. They claim places. Pompelo is not above their reach. It may already be beneath it. I have witnessed some of these old practices in the few things we were able to collect from these hill people.
You speak of old stories, Lucius. What about the problem at hand? What about action?
I speak of consequence, Propraetor. If we ignore this, we do not signal strength. We signal blindness. There is precedent. You all know of the Bacchanalia. How many Roman citizens were executed when it was uncovered? Hundreds. Good families, men of standing. Why? Because the Senate understood what unregulated belief, cloaked in secrecy and blood, can do to the spine of a nation. That was within our walls. This is beyond them. Legate, you speak wisely of Agrippa. But Agrippa acted when it suited Rome's purpose. Would he wait while his clients vanished in the night? Would he delay while fire gathered above his roads? This is not the conquest I propose. It is simply preservation. I do agree with the Aedile. We must act.
And what do you believe they plan?
I don't know. And that's precisely the problem. Every year they took someone, a pattern, and now nothing. No traitors, no messengers, no disappearances. And yet the drums still beat. This year, I fear they do not want just one of us. They want all. And I would rather sleep knowing Rome truly controls these lands. Besides the benefits, a new tribe under our eagle means more taxes, more labor. It should help us with the upcoming winter, and would also help if we removed a possible ally of the Cantabrians and our rears, protecting our supply lines.
I see. Very well. We have heard every voice. Each of you has spoken with the duty expected of your station. Caution is wise, but so is resolve. This is not peacetime. We are in the midst of war, and every tribe from Arga to the Astures watches for the smallest sign of Roman hesitation. If word spreads that the Zatharax rights can paralyze a province and sow fear in our streets, the Cantabri will see the chance. They will whisper to every chieftain in these hills that Rome's grip is loosening, and if they believe it, we will have more than bonfires to contend with. We will have an alliance in our rear. The cohort will march 2 days before the Calends, and I will march with it, if Balbucius permits.
Propraetor, if I may...
Tribune Asellius, you will command the cohort. That is your duty. Fulfill it with discipline. I shall represent Rome to this barbaric tribe.
Yes, Propraetor.
Legate Balbucius, I want your judgment beside mine when the time comes to act. While I am convinced we must act, your arguments bring a wise precaution that we must uphold.
Yes.
And of course, quaestor, this began with you. You claim to know something about the rituals of these people, so you shall accompany the march in an advisory role. You are now part of my praetorium for the duration of the operation. You will observe, advise, and report. Nothing more. We are not marching to conquer. We are marching to learn what breathes behind those trees and extinguish any fire of revolt that might arise. That is all. Prepare your men.
After the council ended, I offered to walk Stilpo to his quarters. He was older than I'd realized. He carried it well, with the bearing of a man who'd once marched at the front and now measured his steps with caution. He didn't protest, just gave a small nod and let the silence stretch between us. We passed through his very well-kept garden, the torches burning lower now. From the edge of the upper terrace, just beyond the grain stores, you could see the valley curve east and the hills beyond it, like sleeping beasts.
Not long ago, none of this was here. Just scrubland and some half-collapsed stones the Vasconis avoid like ghosts.
You were here that early?
Yes, before the foundations. My grandfather was from a village not far north of here. Stones and sheep mostly. He moved to Saldui when the old road still worked, and my father stayed there until we were called to help. I came south when I was 10 with my father. They needed men who knew the land and who could count. He ended up as a kind of procurator minor, oversaw supplies, hired hands, made sure the carts didn't vanish between the river and walls.
And now, you preside over marble rooms.
Barely. The marble's new. The problems aren't. They had to level half a hill to set the lower wall. Stone kept sliding like it didn't want to hold. A priest blamed it on ancestral spirits. They had an engineer blame it on goat piss softening the clay. My father believed the engineer, but I still brought wine to the stones, just in case.
Pragmatic faith.
No, old habits. Rome moves in, plants its banners, draws its lines, but the soil doesn't read Latin. Those texts you mentioned at the council, how does that affect us?
I've read a great deal since arriving. Some local markings, some match inscriptions borrowed from older collections. I compared it with some of the artifacts the Saharak sold a few years ago. Most of it is fragmented, crude symbols, often misinterpreted. I wouldn't give it too much attention.
But you did give it attention. Enough to summon a council. Enough to ask for a cohort.
The signs troubled me, that's all. I'm trained in law and administration, not augury. My father would have me whipped for quoting provincial superstition.
I met a man once during the 5th year of the Pompelo works. Strange fellow. He claimed to have studied in Alexandria and Persia and was a great storyteller, and traveled to many places that I had never heard of. He told me something that stuck. Said it was from an old philosopher. The oldest and strongest emotion of man is fear. And the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown. That's what we Romans don't admit, isn't it? We think ourselves above it. We march into new lands, build walls, rename rivers, raise statues to gods we brought in on boats, and we call it civilization. But when something doesn't yield, when the soil won't hold, when a hill refuses to forget its name, we call it barbaric, or worse, irrelevant. Maybe the things we can't name aren't beneath us, quaestor. Maybe they're above us, or simply older than us. And maybe it's our own pride that keeps us from seeing what's right in front of us.
I doubt the Emperor would agree with that opinion.
No, I am not the Emperor, quaestor. Tell me, have you met him?
Yes, last spring, in Tarraco. I'd just been assigned to Hispania, and was summoned to the governor's villa. He was there, convalescing after the summer campaign. Even seated, he commanded the room. Veterans, senators, freedmen, every man bent to him without a word spoken. He greeted each of us in turn, but when it was my place before him, he asked about my family, about our service in the Republic's wars. Then he spoke of this land, not as a frontier to be feared, but as a stone to be shaped. Hispania, he said, will outlast the Cantabri once Rome teaches it the meaning of peace. When you've stood in his presence, Stilpo, you'll understand Rome is more than walls and laws. Rome is will.
And will not. He is still just a man. And men can fail, and do so often. I remember when he was nothing more than Caesar's boy. It was Agrippa who defeated Antony and Pompey.
Easy. Hold on.
Pebble, it's nothing.
You nearly went off the step.
Yeah, this ground is dishonest.
Stilpo, are you sure you can make that climb?
No, I've gone farther with worse knees.
And come back? That's the part that concerns me. We'll be marching by torchlight, in fog, on ground you just called dishonest. If something happens to you up there, I lose the one man in this town who understands both Rome and the hills.
Flattery. Don't worry about me.
Strategy. Stay alive. Advise us. Climbing isn't the job you have anymore.
It isn't everyone who could get where we're going. Those hills, they're never the same twice. Paths slide, trees change, streams go dry when you turn around. Ask the wrong man to lead, and you end up walking in circles. I am the right man, quaestor.
I'm sorry, Stilpo. You're not. Not anymore. I shall never question your wisdom, but I can question your body. You're the one who knows what we're walking into, but not the one who should do the walking. I must insist.
Fine. There's a boy, not yet a man, but he moves through those woods like he was born from the bark itself. His father was a good friend, was the finest hunter I'd ever known. He passed last year. The boy knows the goat tracks, the old charcoal pits, the hunter trails no Roman has ever set foot on. If I tell him what to watch for, the bends, the cuts, the sounds that mean you've strayed, he can take you where you need to go. He might not be familiar with the exact roads, but it's nothing I couldn't explain to him.
Will he guide a cohort?
It's either me, old and decrepit, or the boy.
Then introduce me.
Meet me by the stables by noon tomorrow.
I'll be there. The morning had bled into dusk by the time I found Stilpo waiting at the forum steps. Cloak drawn tight, eyes already turned north. We walked together through the quieter lanes, past the open-air baths, half-drained, past the market where stalls sat bare and baskets waited for hands that wouldn't come. Even the olive trees along the terrace seemed reluctant to rustle. Pompelo felt strained. Not empty, but tight, like a drum pulled taut. The fifth cohort had been here only days, but their presence was felt in every street. We passed soldiers polishing swords, leaning on pila, gambling in corners. The stables lay just beyond the grain stores, down near the old river path. A low, broad structure of red tile and weathered timber, stained with time and dung. Inside, a dozen horses shifted in their stalls, restless ears flicking. The air smelled of hay, oil, and tension.
Vesalius! Vesalius, boy! Where are you?
He came from the back of the stables. Barely 17, perhaps not even that. Thin, dark-haired. His tunic was dusty, his hands marked with hay and leather, but he moved with ease like he knew every nail in the beams above him.
You called, Master Stilpo? What do you need?
Ah, Vesalius. This is Lucius Caelius Rufus. He's a quaestor sent from the capital. You speak to him as you would to me.
Sir, I've seen you pass through the upper terrace. Didn't know your name.
And now you do. Stilpo says you know these hills.
I know the land, sir. I hunted it with my father since I could hold a bow.
His father knew every ridge from here to the salt caves. And Vesalius has his feet. He's young, but he can follow a deer trail through the fog with one hand on the bark and the other in the wind.
And would you be able to guide soldiers the same way?
I don't fight, sir. I don't swear to eagles or bear arms for coin. But I'll lead men through the hills if it means they come back. That's different.
Good. We're not marching for glory. We're marching to understand what waits in those woods.
There's something else you need to know. We're not taking the cattle roads or the firewood path past the ridge. They're going through the Black Trail.
The Black Trail?
Yes.
But Stilpo, sir. We're not supposed to go there. No one from the valley takes that path. My father... He said it was a cursed land.
So, the boy who knows the hills won't set foot on a trail. Is that the measure of your courage?
It's not fear, sir. It's knowing what you're stepping into. Even animals won't cross that stretch. The trees there don't grow straight.
Easy. He's not wrong to be wary. But we still have time. A few days before we march. He'll learn what he needs. I'll walk him through the rules.
Rules?
You may have your secret knowledge, quaestor. So do we.
All right. But when the drums sound, I won't wait for trembling hands.
He won't tremble, not when it counts.
He didn't look like much. Thin shoulders, soft hands, and too much caution in the way his eyes lingered on the ground. And yet Stilpo trusted him. That counted for something. Still, I wasn't sure. Men say they know the land until the land decides otherwise. The days that followed moved like wet clay. The 5th cohort drilled in the lower fields. Shields tested, blades sharpened, ration packs tallied and retied. Acelius barked orders like he was itching for a skirmish, too eager, too loud. Scribonia stayed mostly within the praetorium, speaking little, reading reports with narrowed eyes. Balbucius walked the walls twice a day, arms folded, jaws clenched like he was grinding salt between his teeth. He didn't want this march, not really. But duty binds men tighter than belief. I studied what I could. Maps, symbols, old scroll fragments scribbled with rites no senator would admit to knowing. And when I could, I watched the boy. Vercelius sat down with Stilpo. I saw them from the ridge once. 2 shadows, one older, one uncertain, pointing fingers at the woods in the distance. He was learning. I only hoped it was fast enough. Then came morning. The cohort assembled just beyond the eastern gate. 400 men in formation. Iron glinting beneath the sky thick with low clouds. And at the front, armor spotless, expression carved from stone, stood Legate Gnaeus Balbucius, ready to speak.
Men of the 5th cohort, sons of the 20th Legion, of Rome's steel and order, of discipline and law. We do not march today for conquest. There are no cities to take, no banners to raise, no gold to be counted. We march because Rome keeps its word. Because when her people feel fear, real or imagined, it is our shield they trust. 3 months ago, mountain traders descended from the high valleys. There was a quarrel. 3 of them died. Since then, their kind has vanished. No messengers, no warnings, no retribution. But there are drums in the hills. And when drums beat in silence, wise men listen. The propraetor, Publius Scribonius Libo, marches with us. Sextus Acelius, tribune of your cohort, will lead you as he has in drills. We march north, 2 days. First through the outer passes, then along the trail the locals fear to name. We will not provoke. We will not burn. We will observe, confirm, and return. If the rites are held, we will see them. If not, we will have shown Rome's vigilance. By the grace of Jupiter Optimus Maximus, by the will of Mars Gradivus, and by the shadow of the eagle under which we stand, Fortuna Redux! Hold formation. Hold silence. Hold discipline. Cohort, advance.
When Balbucius raised his arms and gave the order, the cohort moved as one. Armor rattling, sandaled feet striking the packed road, banners lifting into the gray morning. 400 men, under Rome's name, pressing north into silence. All were afoot, save Libo, Augustus, Celius, 2 or 3 of the centurions, and myself. The men marched in disciplined columns, rows of iron and leather cutting through the wild. Vercelius walked ahead, his figure slim against the rising slope. He carried no sword, only a bow and the weight of knowledge I didn't yet trust. But he never looked lost. By mid-morning, we passed through the first signs of Vascone land. Low stone walls broken by time, olive trees left to rot, painted charms dangling from doorposts. Old gods, older fear. The first village we passed was inhabited. 2 figures watched us from a rooftop and said nothing. A child ran at the sight of us. No carts came to meet the road, no dogs barked. The silence had been taut. The other ones after that were similar. By midday, the path narrowed, and the villages thinned. Signs of life gave way to shuttered doors, empty corrals, dry wells gone to seed. The further we pressed, the more the land seemed to forget people ever lived there. We were getting into territory where the disappearances were most common. We stopped before nightfall at what was once a village, half collapsed into the hill. Roofs caved in, lintels rotted through. Vercelius said it had been abandoned for 3 winters. No raiders, no famine, just absence. They called this the edge of the old lands, the place where people start to vanish. As the cohort made camp in the ruins, I looked at the stone circle where a hearth had once burned. There were no ashes, just weeds and time. The praetorium rose quickly. 3 poles, a square of dyed canvas, and the smell of oil lamps fighting the night chill. Inside, the ground was leveled with rush mats, a folding table laid with maps and wax tablets. Armor rested on stands, wine jugs sweated in the lamplight. It was warmer here, but the warmth felt borrowed, thin, like it could be carried off if the wind found a seam. Beyond the tent flap, the camp murmured in low voices, the sound of men sharpening blades they would not yet admit they feared to use. In the praetorium, there was only the quiet breathing of officers and the weight of decisions yet to be made. Scribonius was waiting.
What do you think we'll find when we reach them? The Zaharak.
I expect little more than what we've heard. Wouldn't it make more sense to speak of this with the legate and the tribune?
I know what they'll say. However, you are harder to read.
Because I don't speak without reason?
Because you listen more than you talk. That makes men wonder what you're thinking. It also tells me you're not without ambition.
Is that a fault?
Not at all. But in the provinces, it can be a dangerous quality if you're careless with it. So, tell me, if the decision were yours alone, how would you proceed?
We don't know yet if they are true enemies or simply a people guarding their own. I would move carefully. Alliance is worth more than a skirmish, and far easier to keep than to win back once lost. A gesture of goodwill before the threat of steel. Speak with them first, see what they want, and what they fear.
And if they refuse your hand?
Then we show them Rome does not extend it twice.
A swift turn from peace to force.
Peace has value because Rome can make war. If they will not stand beside us, they must stand beneath us.
A senator's tongue and a soldier's spine. You do well in the Curia, or in a campaign where the right word, spoken at the right time, wins more than a legion can.
A lot of questions, Propraetor. I sense you're holding something back.
And here I was thinking I was the one taking your measure. You've a talent for pulling at loose threads, Lucius. It's a political instinct, though I suspect you'd rather call it something else.
You're avoiding the question.
My first duty here is to keep this province calm, quiet, undisturbed. That is especially important now.
Why now?
Because the Emperor will be here. Not in passing, not as some distant name on an edict. Augustus himself intends to lead a campaign against the Cantabri next year. Every matter I settle before he arrives, every problem I take from his path will be noticed. The Zaharak, whatever they are, whatever they want, they are one more uncertainty. I mean to remove them through friendship or threats, and if I do, we will both be standing where the Emperor can see us when he looks for men he can trust. A man's career can change in a season, Lucius. The right word in the right ear at the right time. That can carry you further than a decade of quiet service.
Next year, the most powerful man in the world within reach again. To stand before Augustus was to step into the pages of history, or be crushed beneath them. Men lived entire lives in the hope of a moment like that. And now it was here, dangling in front of me like a standard in the wind. But opportunity is a coin struck on both sides, and the other face is always risk. Scribonius left me with more than orders. He left me with a weight. The Emperor, here, in Hispania. Not a rumor, not a distant shadow on some Senate decree. Augustus himself leading a campaign against the Cantabri. For a provincial quaestor still early in his career, it was the sort of opportunity men built whole lives around. If the campaign went well, if the province was stable, if I was seen in the right place beside the right names, it could open doors I'd only glimpsed from afar. But ambition is a coin with two faces. The same eyes that note your rise will watch for your fall. And one misstep in the Emperor's shadow could snuff out everything. I told myself I needed air. In truth, I needed space to think, to let the press of strategy and consequence loosen its grip. It was my habit to walk. I've done it for years. The rhythm of my steps clears the mind better than any wine. And the night air has a way of stripping the noise from a man's thoughts. The guards would warn against it. The night, the hills, the people beyond them. But I have never believed that caution means standing still. Fear breeds in the same soil as idleness, and neither has ever served me. Through the dying light, I saw Verselius. He moved between the ruins, quiet as a shadow, bow in hand. Not a man on patrol, nor one wandering without aim. There was purpose in his steps, a purpose I meant to understand. I followed. We moved through the bones of the village. Half-crumbled walls, roof beams rotted to black splinters. It was there on the lintel, half swallowed by ivy, that I saw it. A pentagram, with an eye set deep at its center. But the carving was ruined, scored through with violent gouges, the shape nearly lost to splinters. Someone had wanted it gone, badly. The sight stopped me in my tracks, and for a moment the cold of the night seemed to press closer. From the shadows, Verselius stepped into the faint light, bow in hand. His eyes went to the symbol first, not me.
That's a protection mark. The Zaharak. They don't like it. They scratch it away when they find it.
You sound as though you believe the tales, boy.
I believe it's what keeps a man breathing, sir.
And yet, you walk here.
Not for my own pleasure. Master Stilpo asked it of me.
A request you could have refused.
I don't know how it is in Rome, sir, but here, some debts outweigh fear.
Fear doesn't serve a man in the field.
No, but it keeps his eyes open.
And what are yours seeing now? Why are you here outside?
Tracks. New enough that the dust hasn't settled over them.
What made them?
Something with weight. Could be an animal.
Where do they lead?
Inside the house with the mark.
The door yielded with a groan, its hinges giving way as if they hadn't been touched in years. Inside, the air was close, dry, heavy, and carrying the faint metallic tang of old blood. We stepped into a single room, moonlight cutting a pale blade across the floorboards. The wolf lay in the center. Its body stretched long and rigid, fur matted with blackened blood. Beneath it, a bed of river stones had been arranged in a perfect circle, each one carved with deep, deliberate slashes. Its throat had been opened in one clean stroke, the wound feeding rivulets of dried blood into painted spirals and sigils I did not know. Around its head, sprigs of mountain herbs were laid like a crown, their scent sharp and bitter, fighting the stench of iron. Its eyes were closed, not by time, but by a human hand.
That's not hunting.
No.
We shouldn't be here.
You think this means something?
It means everything. You don't mark and crown an animal like this unless...
Unless what? That some hill ghosts will come for us in the night?
You don't understand.
I understand enough. Superstitio rots a man's judgment. It makes him see enemies in shadows, omens in wind, weakness in his own hands. You'd let stories told by frightened peasants decide your course.
They're not just stories.
They are exactly that. And you'll remember your place before you speak of them again. Now, let's go back to camp. Can't afford losing you, boy. Verselius flinched as if struck, jaw tightening. But his eyes kept straying to the corners of the room, to the dark behind the lintel. His grip on the bow was rigid, knuckles drained of blood. I wanted him steady. Not because I believed my own words, but because fear spreads faster than fire in dry grass. And if the boy saw mine, the flames would catch. The truth I buried under that rebuke was that the scene unsettled me as much as it did him. The wolf was not just an animal. It was Rome itself, gutted and crowned on foreign stones. And if the Zaharak meant it as a warning, then it was one I felt in my bones. I said nothing of that. The Emperor's shadow was long, and in it there was no room for doubt. We turned to leave. We left the village at first light. No one said much. Even Aselius kept quiet, though I caught him glancing at the tree line more than once. The men marched with purpose, but the rhythm felt forced, like they were trying to outpace something unseen. As the sun climbed, the land began to change. The grass thinned, the trees grew crooked, bent as if kneeling towards something buried in the hills. Their bark peeled like old skin, their branches reached down, not up. The path narrowed. Stones jutted from the soil like broken teeth. Even the air grew heavy, thick with moss and damp earth. And then the fog came. Low at first, clinging to the roots. Then rising, swirling between our legs like something alive. That's when Verselius stopped. He didn't speak. He just froze, mid-step, eyes fixed on something beyond the mist. He didn't move for a long time, and neither did we.
No. Why did you stop? What is it?
Halt the march!
Boy, answer me. Why are you... What in the infernum are you looking at?
Then I saw it too. Just ahead, where the trail broke and forked into the tree line. There lay a crossroads, if you could call it that. Just dirt. Deep, churned, dark as blood. Tree roots split the ground like veins. The trees around it leaned in like old men eavesdropping. A huge stone with something painted on it. And there, standing in the mist, two figures, wrapped in cloaks, still as carved marble, just there, watching.
What's going on? Why have we stopped?
Form up. Keep ranks tight. Shields loose. No sudden moves. Yes, sir.
We were still in what passed for peace, and no blood had been drawn. So it was decided I would ride forward with Augustus beside me to speak, as Romans do. A show of clarity, of control. And perhaps to test whether diplomacy could reach whatever it was that waited at the Black Trail's mouth. We rode slow, just the two of us, leaving the cohort in silence behind. As we drew closer, I saw them... clearer. At first, I still thought they were two cloaked figures close enough to touch. Too close. Their robes overlapped, not like cloth touching cloth, but like fabric growing into fabric. Thread and fold weaving across the space between them. Their legs were hidden, still, rooted, like they hadn't moved in days or longer. One had a face, partially, eyes shrouded beneath the cowl, but the mouth was bare. Lips, too thin, pulled tight across teeth that came to points, small and sharp. The gums behind them were black. Beside him, or perhaps part of him, another cowl. This one showed only the eyes, yellowed with pupils that didn't hold still. The nose and mouth were wrapped in linen stained dark at the edges. And then the arms, 3 that I could see. One hung low and still, another bent forward just beneath the folds, fingers long and unmoving. The third holding an old wooden staff. But even now, I'm not sure. I kept trying to count them, to separate one shape from the other, to define them. But the more I looked, the more I failed to see where one ended and the other began. Were there 2 men? Hear me! I am Lucius Caelius Rufus, quaestor from Hispania Citierioris, a magistrate of Rome, appointed under the seal of Emperor Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus. I address those present in this place on behalf of the first citizen. We have come lawfully and in peace to investigate matters affecting the safety of our subjects and the stability of this province. If you are the emissaries or leaders of your people, step forward, declare yourselves. Rome honors its treaties. Rome respects the laws of contact, but we do not traffic in secrecy.
Kras, Tulvatsenda, Lulakad, Vreshanakun, Balthag.
Do you speak Latin? Or Vescon?
Junavid, Kranuthak, Drenvaludan. Thy tongue is not our tongue, nor thy gods, O gods. Thou hast crossed unto hallowed soil, where men are not meant to tread. Turn thee back, lest thou waketh what sleepeth neath the roots.
These lands now fall under Roman dominion. We come not to provoke, but to make your tribe a friend of Rome. Send forth your chieftain, so he might bend the knee and speak terms of peace.
Bend the knee. To what, good general? To thine paper scrolls and senile decrees, to temples of Jupiter forgotten by thine own. This land kneeleth not. These hills remember not thy standards. And here, the silence answereth not to Rome's friendship.
You know Jupiter. How do you know that name?
We have watched thy gods weep over broken altars. Ye are not alone to us, quaestor, but ye are unfeared.
Then know this. We are not emissaries of fear, but of law. Rome lifts the world by her rule. You are fortunate to stand before us and not beneath our hill.
Thy law is a cage with rusted bars. Thy pride blinded thee to truth. Rome buildeth monuments of stone, but they crumble ere the roots of our woods do shift. Thou comest from a city where gold buyeth the tongue, where the the Senate barters gods for grain, where pride sitteth atop decay. Ye believe thy names endure, but they are but whispers here. Ye are not the first to trespass, nor shall ye be the last to be unmade.
You speak of silence and woods as if they hold dominion. But Rome has conquered the seas, the sands, the stars themselves. The world bows to our allegiance, and these hills shall follow.
We bear not just arms, but law, language, and civilization. Who are you to bar the eagle's flight?
He speaketh of word and conquest as though thou knowest its breath. But thou hast not seen the rivers that bleed salt in the east, nor heard the names screamed by stars that forget thy tongue. Not the lands after the world's end. Thine empire is but a brief echo in the throat of time. It came from nothing. It is nothing, and to nothing it shall return. In thee, Caelus Rufus, we have watched thee long ere thou set foot upon these cursed stones. We know the scrolls thou touched, the dreams thou buried, the doubts thou fed by candlelight. Thy mind is known to us.
How do you know these places? How do you know me?
We have ears in every hush, eyes in every shadow. The crows know thee well, so too the rats beneath the Senate floor. Leave this land, depart these woods and crumble back to thy marble nest, or face what true wrath is. This is thy only mercy.
How dare you threaten a voice of Rome? You stand before the legate of a legion. I order you to accept our friendship.
What is that? God's love!
Trick is this? Stand fast.
Thou hast brought pride where pride should steal. Thou treadst upon hollow root and stone. But know this, O children of the war, this land is not thine to bind. These woods bend not thy laws, nor heed thy gods. Turn thee back, or vanish as those before thee into the hush that doth hunger.
I did not breathe. My legs frozen. That sound, it didn't echo. It settled on the bones. Whatever that thing was, it moved like no man. When I looked again, it was gliding into the fog, not walking, not turning, just leaving as if the forest swallowed it. We stood there, not from discipline, but from fear. Because whatever silence followed felt like it was watching.
What in Jupiter's name was that?
I don't know.
There are more of them in the woods, watching us. They've done this before, smoke and sound to rattle nerves.
But that...
No. No excuses, Lucius. This expedition was your counsel. You will not wither the moment the shadows stretch. Is that understood? What did the man say?
He denied us. Said these lands were not Rome's to take. But they will be. His tribe will bend. Sooner or later.
They avoided dialogue, so we'll make them bend. This forest does not frighten Rome.
I should not have come. Gods, forgive me, I should not have come. This was no matter for Rome. No edict, no census. This was wrong. I should have protested louder, but I could only look at the stone by the crossroads. Painted on it was a man pointing at the sky, and from below, tendrils rising to drag him down. I could feel it, pulling even in the stone. Just beneath it, an Egyptian ankh, but inverted. It was carved deep with strange precision. And wrong, so deeply wrong. I'd seen it before on scrolls of Alexandria, but this wasn't Egypt, so what in the God's name was it doing here? I thought myself a man of reason, of duty, a quaestor of Rome. But the world was proving stranger than I'd imagined. And I was no longer sure we'd see Rome again. The hills pressed closer as we advanced. Dusk fell not like a curtain, but like a slow suffocation, blotting detail, swallowing certainty. We were far from Pompelo now, far from stone roads, from laws, from sense. The path, at first, broad and firm, had narrowed to a crooked animal trail. Trees rose on both sides like silent witnesses, their limbs hanging low, gnarled as if listening. No birds sang. The only sounds were the iron of our boots on rock, the snort of uneasy horses, and far off, but ever nearer, the rhythm of drums. Not Roman drums. Not anything Roman. I kept to the center of the column, riding in silence behind Sextus Asellius and the others. Babucius grunted to himself every few minutes. No one spoke for a long while. Even I, who once dreamed of taming the world, said nothing. The world, I was learning, is not made for taming.
This road was never made for horses. Look at that bend. Steep as a goat's spine.
We'll lose time if we try to force them forward. They'll panic or break a leg.
Dismount, then. We're too far in to double back. The animals stay here.
We tie them in pairs. The handlers will wait behind with the beasts. Keep watch. The rest of us go on foot.
Select 6 men to remain behind. The rest, offload and ready packs, now.
If they were watching us before, they'll know now we're on foot, vulnerable.
They already knew. They've known since Pompelo.
Then onward we go.
Verselius with me.
Yes, sir.
Take the reins. Tie her off.
With me, girl. With me. Come on. This way.
That sound. Was that thing human?
I do not know, sir.
What do you mean you don't know? You live here. You've heard the stories. You knew the path. You brought us this way.
We should not have come.
You're shaking. You're afraid. I can see it in your face. Speak plainly.
My grandfather spoke of this place. The Black Trail. He said the forest here is not like the other woods. Men vanish. They say something old walks here.
You are a scout under Roman command. Hold your fear and speak with purpose. Is the tribe close?
Yes, sir. The settlement lies past the ridge. If we make camp near the peak tonight, we'll be at their gates by tomorrow morning.
Fine. Then let's get this over with. We began to climb up that steep hill as dusk fell, our torches flaring to life one by one against the growing dark. The way was steep and narrow, winding upward through grasping trees and swirling mist. For a moment, a gust of wind parted the fog, and I caught a glimpse of the vast wilderness sprawled beneath us. Endless dark hills with not a single light of man. Then the vapor closed in again, clutching us in a grayness without end. Night had truly fallen. There was no moon now, only the pale smear of starlight above the red glow of our torches dancing on trunks and rocks. We pressed on in uneasy silence. The drums in the distance had grown louder, a ceaseless hollow thumping echoing from the peaks ahead. We were 400 men. Yet the darkness and the close pressing woods made our cohort feel small and cumbersome. Every so often, I thought I saw a figure skulk between the trees just beyond our torchlight. Every so often, one of the legionaries would curse under his breath or mutter a prayer. It might have been half an hour, half an eternity of this ascent when it happened. Without warning, from far below, where we left the horses, there echoed a shrill, inhuman scream.
Jupiter's mercy, what is that? Rear guard, report!
Hold!
Stay alert and stay
We all halted, hearts pounding. Men turned back towards the slope below, peering into the black ravine where we had left our mounts. But there was no glow of torch down there, no shouted reply, no sign of any living man. I felt a chill ripple through the ranks. Even as dread climbed our spines, a new light bloomed in the opposite direction.
Keep your eyes up, men. They're nearby.
Ahead, high above us at the mountaintop, fires burst forth one by one along the ridge. Great bonfires flared to life against the sky as if answering the horse's death scream with a defiant illumination. Dozens of flames crowned the hill ahead, red and malevolent. Terror now lurked equally before and behind us. The entire cohort seemed to waver, on the verge of panic. It was then I noticed Verselius. He had fallen behind and now stood apart from the nearest legionaries. His face was pallid, lips quivering as he stared up at the blazing mountaintop. In his trembling hand, I glimpsed the dull shine of a blade, a dagger, snatched from a soldier's belt.
Boy! What are you doing? Drop that weapon!
Vesalius, put the knife down.
It's an order! Drop it now!
You should have come here. You should not have come here.
What do you mean, we should not have come?
Vesalius jerked back a step, eyes huge with despair. Before anyone could reach him, he suddenly plunged the dagger into his own throat.
No!
There was a wet, sickening choke. The boy suddenly crumpled to the ground in a heap.
By the gods! What's going on here?
In the wavering torchlight, I saw with such a look of utter terror that even our stoutest veterans blanched. Blood pooled beneath him. And the men near us stepped back as if the very blood were cursed. He had been born and raised in these hills. He knew, far better than we, what lurked in this darkness. And rather than face that horror, he had chosen a cleaner end. I realized my torch was guttering. All around, one by one, our torches were dimming, their flames shrinking as if an invisible wind were devouring them. Murmurs of fear spread
Ben!
through the ranks.
Don't let the flames die!
In the darkness, I could barely see the man next to me. The air had turned freezing cold, far colder than any autumn night should be. Our entire column stalled, huddling close with shields raised, peering into the dark. The last torches guttered out completely, throwing us into a blindness relieved only by the faint silver of the stars overhead. I looked up, just for a heartbeat, to see if anything was there. The band of the Milky Way glimmered across the sky, and against that cosmic light, I thought I saw shadows. Enormous, impossible shadows swirling and circling above us. Then, suddenly, the stars themselves vanished. One by one, every point of light in the sky was blotted out, as though something vast had risen above us, swallowing the very heavens. Only one light remained. The hellish red altar fires on the peaks high above. And against those distant flames, it moved. They moved. Mad, leaping silhouettes among the crags and trees, colossal forms of such nameless beasts as never a Phrygian priest or companion Grandum had whispered of in the wildest tales. I caught only glimpses. Twisting horns.
By the gods.
Flailing limbs far too long. A scream tore through the night, then another.
Back to back, shields up, javelins. By all the gods, steady, men. It's all.
And then, an even greater horror struck. From those towering peaks, an icy gale swept down, a wind of unnatural will. It wasn't random. It moved with purpose, snaking through our ranks. I felt it coil around my chest like a living thing and squeeze. All around me, legionaries were lifted or thrown by invisible coils of air or creatures in the night. I heard men choking out prayers and curses as they were wrenched backwards one by one. I stumbled backward in the confusion and collided with someone. Scribonius, standing still amidst the chaos.
Legionaries. Legionaries est. Win it. Tandem win it.
Scribonius! No! No!
I turned just in time to see Balbucius wrenched off his feet. He lashed out with his sword, roaring with fury. His words broke into a choke as something slammed him into the ground. My mind barely had time to register the horror before I felt a rush of air at my back, something vast descending behind me.
Just get down!
We were falling, crashing through the undergrowth, tumbling down the side of the cursed hill. And for a moment, I passed out.
Lucius. Lucius, wake up. Come on. Wake up.
What?
Lucius,
What?
you blacked out. We're alone. There. It's all gone, Lucius.
What happened to the cohort?
Dead. Or scattered. I don't know. But we've got to move.
Move. Back to the trail.
Back to anywhere that isn't here.
Somewhere. Beyond the trees. I heard the dying cries of the legionaries. One by one swallowed in the dark. And beneath their voices, deeper, colder, something else stirred.
Run! Lucius, run!
We ran, blindly into the woods, thorns tearing at our legs, our breath ragged in our chests. But behind us, something massive moving fast. Trees shuddered, rocks cracked, the forest held its breath.
Down the ravine! Follow me!
I didn't know where we were going. Only that if we stopped, if I faltered for even a breath, it would reach us and I would never be heard from again. We ran until the forest itself turned against us. Roots clawing at our feet, the night thick as pitch. I stumbled into a hollow where jagged stone rose like teeth from the earth and threw myself behind it.
Lucius, wait! Help me!
Sextus had fallen. A leg stuck between roots of a tree. I reached for him, hesitated. Then I saw the shadow breaking through the tree line. Get up now!
I can't!
I could have hauled him to his feet. But if I did, we would both be dead. I'm sorry.
What? Lucius, no!
It was either him or me. The thing's weight broke him against the earth before the scream left his throat. I didn't look back until the night was quiet again. Further ahead, I pressed myself into the rock, barely breathing. I dared not move. Not a twitch, not a gasp. Something vast passed by. The ground trembled with every step it took. Through the cracks in the stone, glimpsed it. Never whole, never clear, only pieces. A glistening foil, thick as a tree trunk, sliding across moss. The shadow of a leg. No, a limb, jointed wrong, bending where it shouldn't bend. A cluster of tendrils, tipped with teeth, or eyes, or both. I shut my eyes. I clenched my jaw. I bit blood into my tongue to keep from crying out. There were no words, no reason, no gods to answer. And I, Lucius Caelius Rufus, magistrate of Rome, cowered behind a stone. But then, something stirred in me. Not bravery, never that. Something closer to madness. I thought, if I don't move now, I'll die here, cowering like an animal. Just one step. Just one step. I was airborne. My feet no longer touched earth. The trees fell away. The forest shrank beneath me. And in front of me, something opened. It wasn't a mouth. It was an abyss. A maw without end. Beyond its jaws and teeth, darkness stretched to the horizon, speckled with light, but not stars. Not stars. A spiral of impossible color. Like the sky I'd seen earlier. Its throat went down forever. So this is how it ends. Not with steel, not with honor, but as a speck before something vaster than gods. I fell. When my sight returned, I was adrift. No ground beneath me, no vault of sky above, only a gulf without horizon. At first, I thought I saw the night made endless. Blazing fire spheres of colossal size, scattered across an infinite dome, their light sharp and cold. Some hung far as dreams. Others burned so close their heat should have seared my flesh, yet they did not warm me. Then I saw the rhythm. Each flame swelled and dimmed, as though breathing or bowing. Their glow spilled towards a single thing in the center of all. A great void that drank even the thought of light. It was no star, no god, no shape the mind could hold. It was the heart of all things, yet it beat without life. The fires fed it with their pulse, though whether to soothe it or to keep it from waking, I could not tell. And around that abyss, I became aware of movement. Shadows, not cast by light but by sound. A slow, relentless pounding, as if the void itself had a pulse. It was joined by other notes, low thrums, rolling booms of music too vast to be played by any mortal hand. They circled the dark like a court about their king, hidden in the folds of nothingness. I felt their regard without eyes, their voices without tongues, all given in service to that center, to keep its hunger lulled. Then the void spoke without words, yet I heard it in the morrow. A voice, darker and colder than anything I could have ever imagined. And behind those voices, the beat of a heart so vast, each pulse dragged me closer. It was falling. Down, not as a man falls, but as a grain of sand falls towards the center of the sea. I had no prayer to answer this. No god in Rome knew this place. But my hand found the dagger at my belt, and my mind found the shape. The star. The mark Vercellus spoke of. The sign the very old folk feared. I carved it into my palm. 5 points bound by the lines of a greater whole, each stroke burning as though the void itself resisted. A sound tore through the abyss, and I was hurled back, away from the wound, away from the center, spinning into nothing until nothing became darkness. And I knew no more. I awoke on damp earth beneath a crown of oak and ash. The air was sweet, clean, almost kind. So far from the last thing I had seen. My cloak clung to me, stiff with dirt and blood. My hands still streaked with that crude carving, throbbing with every heartbeat. A stream whispered nearby. I rose unsteady and looked east. The walls of Pompelo stood there, distant but near enough to walk before the sun reached its height. That was wrong. We had been 2 days' march from here. through mountains, rivers, the tangle of wild hills. I did not remember walking. I did not remember standing. I simply was here. The gate guards did not know my face. They frowned at my state, but let me pass to the healers. There, as poultices were bound to my hands, a servant from the old governor's house stared at me with widening eyes and whispered my name. More faces came. Some I knew, some I half knew. Their looks were part awe, part suspicion. And then someone said it, soft, as though fearing the words might break the world. It had been a year since our cohort had marched. A year. I told them that was impossible. That I had seen the moon rise only what felt like nights ago. That Stilpo would vouch for me. They then told me that Stilpo had died. Just days passed, choking in his bed. Questions followed, hard ones. Where had I been? What happened to the propraetor and the legate? What business kept a quaestor from his post for a year? Whispers sharpened into accusations. Desertion. Cowardice. Treachery. I was taken from the city under guard, marched for days across Hispania to an imperial encampment. Legion banners flared red and gold in the wind. The smell of oiled leather, sweat, and smoke thickened the air. Trumpets sounded, not for me, but for him. I saw the pavilion before I saw the man, its crimson canopy rising above the ordered chaos of the camp. The imperial standard fixed like a sun over its peak. The camp moving like a living organism around it, officers striding with scrolls and spears, messengers darting between tent lines, the constant thrum of discipline. And then Augustus. He sat at the center, still as carved marble. Yet the air seemed to contract around him. His gaze did not roam. It pierced as though the rest of the world was a distraction. This was no Senate debate, no forum speech. This was the man who held the empire in his hands and thought nothing of closing his fist. They placed me before him. I spoke. I told everything, every march, every shadow, every moment in that void. His expression remained unreadable. His eyes weighed the words as a moneyer tests a coin. When I finished, there was no decree, no sentence, only a measured pause, and then a flick of his hand. I thought that was the signal for my death. Instead, he dismissed the guards and gestured for me to follow. Inside his private chamber, the air smelled of wax, parchment, and a faint spice I could not place. A chest stood open beside a low table, and upon it rested a scroll bound in fraying cords. The outer layer was darkened with age, the vellum brittle at the edges, yet warm to the touch as if it had been lying in sunlight. The script within was like nothing I'd ever seen. Lines that curved and nodded, symbols that seemed to shift as if I looked at it too long. He opened it without a word and turned it toward me. At first the symbols were nonsense, then they weren't. My mind resisted, yet the meaning began to surface, as if the words were being whispered from somewhere inside my skull. A pressure built behind my eyes. My left hand ached, then throbbed, then burned, the carved sigil searing anew under the skin. I did not remember speaking, but I heard my own voice forming the sounds. Augustus watched me, his expression fixed, not in wonder, but in recognition. When I faltered, when the pain forced me to close the book, he took it back as if it were no heavier than a tablet. He said nothing, only studied me with the look of a man who has found a missing piece to a puzzle too vast to name. Then came the words I did not expect. I was pardoned. Not restored to my former post. No, that life was gone. But I was no longer an exile, no longer disgraced. And when I left that pavilion, it was not as a quaestor, and not as a condemned man. I had been claimed for something else entirely. Years have passed. My father is dead. His estate mine. I write this from my villa in Rome, marble cool beneath my feet. I serve the emperor still, though my place is not in the Senate, nor the ranks of the legions. He uses me for what others will not name, and I use him for the same. The experience in Pompeii showed me that Rome is nothing compared to what's out there, and the peak of Roman power was nothing compared to what I aim for now.
Lucius Caelius Rufus, a man of Rome, a man of reason, a man of law. He came to Hispania armed not with decrees and legions, but with the certainty that Rome could order the world. And yet, that certainty faltered. For Lucius sought to explain what he witnessed. Rites in the hills, symbols older than his republic, whispers that knew his name. He tried to frame them as superstition, as lawless rites of tribes yet uncivilized. But in the stillness of those woods, he glimpsed something that Rome could not legislate nor silence. His education in the Senate, his scrolls from Alexandria, his pride as patrician. None could shield him from the truth that bled through those nights. That man is not sovereign, and Rome, for all its splendor, is only a brief flare against an endless dark. Perhaps Lucius will be remembered as a magistrate, perhaps as a victim of provincial superstition. But if his own words endure, they will not tell of glory, but of fear. Fear of the very old folk who wait beyond the tree line, and who will outlast Rome as surely as they will outlast humanity. Adapted, directed, and edited by João Victor Vila. Jeremy Shaw as quaestor Lucius Caelius Rufus. Aaron Irvin as propraetor Titus Scribonius Lebo. Chris Harris Beachy as legate Gnaeus Balbucius. Lane Leathers as tribune Sextus Acelius. Will Diggins as Vercellius. Doug Grosser as the mouth. And Jeff Devine as the narrator. Historical consultant Aaron Irvin. Original music by João Victor Vila, with additional music by Michael Andreas Meyer. These are not just stories. They are warning.